In the National Football League, players from all across, all 32 teams, they had 75 players per team. That was cut down to 53 just this past Friday. We also had plenty of news around the National Football League, including the fact that the preseason is over, ladies and gentlemen, and we are getting ready for the start of the regular season. Hello, friends. I am Nick Rice, and I'm here on National Sports. This is Spreaker.com, NFL Cut Days Recap Show. You can also include, this will be a prediction segment before we get going in the regular season. I am Nick Rice, the host over at what many may know as NFL Goal Line with Nick Rice and Phil Nunziata. I am Nick Rice, the leader of that show. Phil Nunziata and I will both be doing the show Monday night, as always, at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, just trying to get some interactive show on this broadcast. The NFL Cut Days Recap Show. I am Nick Rice. Let's get started here right off the bat. Let's get everyone going on the same page. We are looking for another interactive show again this afternoon. It is 1:01 local time, 4:01 over on the East Coast, and everywhere in between, 2:01 and 3:01 respectively, over in the Midwest. Now, my question to you guys is, will you guys be interactive on this show? That is the problem. 951-515-4552 is the number. Thank you guys for tuning in, and you can just text me, call me, whatever it takes to get your question across. I am looking for any sort of questions you guys have about the National Football League. I'm just giving you the information that has been brought to me, and that is some pretty big facts going on in the National Football League. Let's just go through what was said at the top of the show, all the big cuts going on after last night's roster reduction from 75 to 53. Let's go with the big names over in New England. Now, the Patriots were the representatives for the AFC in the Super Bowl last season, but they did let go of some receiving threats and offensive weapons that really, including Deion Branch, were productive on this team last year. Deion Branch was let go from New England. It looks like they'll be going for younger players who can also help on special teams. Also let go of Brian Hoyer in the center, backup for New England, Dan Copen. He's also getting up there in years. And because of Brian Hoyer's absence, that means that Ryan Mallett is the backup quarterback. He could be traded. There's possibility that he could travel to another team. A lot of backup quarterbacks seemingly this year are on the trade market, including, we'll get to them very next, it is Mike Kafka. They've had a lot of trade talks just over the past couple weeks. He's proved very vital for the Eagles in their preseason dominance so far in the NFL. That has nothing to do with the regular season, but he seems to be a better quarterback than a number 2 at any football team. We'll have to see where he goes in the coming weeks. Now, over in Philadelphia, it looks like they're going younger in the secondary as well. So for Philadelphia, they let go of Joselio Hansen, He was well known as one of those guys, those 2 to 3 interception guys a year. He's cut by Philadelphia, and now that he's getting up there in years, it's interesting to see if any team will snag him or if he just happens to say, hey, I'm retired, this is it for me in my NFL career. And they also went younger over at safety as they let go of O.J. Atogwe. He was supposed to be coming into Philadelphia, one of those guys that can provide some big plays, and he's a solid run stuffer. That's very underestimated of Atogwe. He was extremely good over in Washington. It's interesting to see how his career has kind of spiraled downward ever since leaving the Redskins. It looks like Kurt Coleman will start at safety for the Eagles. Now let's go over to Cleveland, one of those teams that you don't expect to win more than 5 or 6 games, but they obviously made a big play at quarterback because they let go of Seneca Wallace. Obviously, Colt McCoy is the guy, but right now they don't really have one of those backups that can come in and play. Very interesting over there in Cleveland. Now let's go to the Hard Knocks team for this year, the Miami Dolphins. They let go of A guy that I was really looking high upon to be that number 3, number 4 guy. It's interesting now, all the cuts that the Dolphins made at wide receiver, including the fact that they already let go of Chad Johnson for obvious reasons, a lot of off-the-field issues there. Roberto Wallace was one of those guys that really contributed well. And obviously when his number was called to get on the field, he produced, cut by Miami last night. And they also, at quarterback, so for the offense, Ryan Tannehill is the guy, but it's interesting how they have two other backup-worthy contenders who can fight for that starting job, and David Garrard and Matt Moore. Both those guys are key backup players. Maybe Matt Moore might be shipped out of town, but both those guys remaining on the roster. Now, before I get any farther, we know David Garrard hasn't played since he got injured in week 1 of the preseason, but the NFL did state a new rule for this coming year, and seemingly from here on out, now in the NFL, you can place a player at IR, not have him affect the 53-man roster, and you can take a guy out of IR after 8 weeks of the regular season. So now for teams, now I'm a San Diego fan, so I want to first go to the Chargers. Vincent Brown, one of those guys that we expect to be a number 1 in the coming years, got injured, broken ankle, but we do expect him to be back during the second half of the year. Now that's beneficiary for teams like San Diego that have a guy that's not being out for the year, but will miss a lot of time, no doubt about that. So now, with this new IR system, one guy can be placed on that injured reserve, and you can still hold another spot for one guy to be on your roster with still having 53 men. And then obviously 8 for the practice squad. So for a team like the Dolphins, with David Garrard, you can hold him on your IR, still have Matt Moore on the roster, and have Garrard come back into that backup role when need be second half of the year. So now let's go over to other cut days in other parts of the country. Let's scroll down here in Minnesota. More quarterback controversy. The Vikings, they let go of Sage Rosenfels. He was a starter in the NFL, played very well, based on Texans standards. Over there in Houston, Sage Rosenfels, an up-and-down career so far. He isn't over the age of 30 even, so it's interesting how they let him go and if he has any chance of a comeback for any other team. Maybe the Vikings might go for a guy like Brian Hoyer, just released by the New England Patriots, to try and make that 53. And the Vikings recently also just acquired A.J. Jefferson from the Cardinals. He was expected to be a number 2, number 3 possibly cornerback over there in Arizona. Now let's go to Denver now. A lot of storylines recently coming up in Denver. So now the Peyton Manning-led Broncos, they let go of Drayton Florence. He was up and down over there in Buffalo, but he's a guy that you've really heard of. And during San Diego and Buffalo, Drayton Florence, one of those guys that can produce the big play when need be. It's interesting how they signed him to a 2-year deal worth $4.5 million reportedly, and they let him go without even making the 53. He hasn't even played one down in the regular season, and they put him on waivers. Now, let's go over to another guy that has had a big contract but was released before even reaching the 53, Jacob Hester over in San Diego. He was a third-round pick for us in 2008, and he was expected to be the backup fullback to LaRon McClain, but just after that storyline, you kind of scratch your head. Why do you need 2 fullbacks? Letting go of Jacob Hester. It'll be interesting to see because Jacob Hester is one of those role player guys that maybe in a team like New England will just do what he has to do to win for his football team. He'll do what it takes, whatever the coach asks him. He'll be able to do it and do it at the best of his ability. It'll be interesting to see for a team that needs a fullback, if anyone wants to pick him up. Maybe even, I might go out on a limb on this one, but in the backfield, a team as good as Green Bay still needs guys back there that can contribute in the running game. And honestly, Jacob Hester, one of those teams that might be able to pick him up and might want to, in that fact, is a team like the Packers. Now, they were in the bottom 5 in rushing the football last year. Green Bay was. So for a team like the Packers, having that guy that can pound it up inside and can block that first rush right up the middle, a guy like Jacob Hester, he's a little undersized. They said that going into the draft, but I feel like he's done more than enough to prove that he can play and be a contributor for any football team in the NFL. So now let's go to other teams. Now we're going through just running down this NFL roster cuts. A lot of key storylines and more over in Seattle. Now the Seahawks, interestingly enough, for a team that didn't even reach 500 last year, and the year before that barely won one playoff game, and they've been up and down ever since the Super Bowl appearance in 2005. A team like Seattle has made so many headlines this year, but it says a lot about the NFL. NFL headlines mean seemingly a lot more than Super Bowl victories. Just talk about the Jets being more popular than the Super Bowl winning Giants. So in Seattle, at wide receiver, a lot of guys were cut this past week. They go from putting Terrell Owens on the roster to now you have Braylon Edwards, seemingly the number one guy. I put that in quotes because just so much, so many big things happening around in Seattle, and seemingly Sidney Rice could fight for that number one, probably be a number 2 target for Russell Wilson. But they did let go of 3 solid contributors, including one guy that was a key number 3 on the receiving squad just last year. Deion Butler let go by Seattle. Ricardo Lockett and Chris Durham, rookies, were both cut in Seattle. And Braylon Edwards and his squad certainly need to help out that top 5 defense of just a year ago if Seattle wants to make any sort of a run for the postseason. Before I even get to predictions, I just want to add the fact that Seattle, I don't see him winning more than 5 or 6 games this year. I might be biased, but too many questions on the offensive side, let alone just the fact that they have a 4th-round pick at quarterback, a rookie, that they just snagged to be sort of a backup player. They didn't even have him start until Matt Flynn just completely underperformed on his huge contract, 5-year deal. Honestly, I mean, along with the fact that I think Matt Flynn should just be out of town and he should sign some sort of a backup type of contract with another team, I honestly don't see Russell Wilson carrying this team for more than 5 or 6 wins this year. And then obviously with all these questionable cuts that the Seattle Seahawks are making, I thought Owens, even though his lack of production in the preseason, I saw him as being one of those guys that can provide leadership if he doesn't even make any production on the field. He's one of those leader guys that puts him before the team seemingly for the first time ever. He was me, all in Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Dallas. Now I saw in Seattle, I saw a different Owens, a guy that didn't even take Brandon Tate's number over in Seattle. He took number 10, just, sort of a humble move. He got released by Seattle, more just humble. He was all over the Twitter, though, but that's not surprising. But he was very humble about this whole process. I saw him as being a leadership guy. Now there's so many things, so much, questions all over Seattle. It's interesting how they will be able to fare in this coming year. Now let's go over to San Francisco, right up the bay in the NFC West. Jim Harbaugh, some interesting cuts this year. Scott Tolzien will make the number 3 quarterback job. Obviously, Alex Smith is the number 1 guy. But they let go of, Harbaugh did, his former University of San Diego player, Josh Johnson. He's not going to be making that quarterback battle. It's going to be Alex Smith all the way, but that's the cut move in San Francisco, the only real marquee guy that was unable to make the 53 for the Niners. Now let's go up to St. Louis, more NFC West roster cut analysis for the Rams. They cut backup quarterback Kellen Clemens. He's been all over the place in the past couple years. He was notably known as one of those solid quarterbacks for New York. He was a key with the Jets back before 2010. He ends up getting the a backup quarterback job behind Mark Sanchez. Then ever since, he's been all over the place in the National Football League.